Hi people, it's Archivist here, and after a brief 2-week break I'm back to making videos. Essentially I've got a new job, and as I'm just getting used to things, getting into the flow of things, I took a break from making videos because I quite frankly just didn't have the energy after work to make them. But now I'm on my second weekend, I feel relaxed, calm and ready to do what I love. I can go back to talking to you guys about what I enjoy. And in this video I'm going to be combining movies and games by talking about video game movies that are up and coming. Now I've chosen 6 that I want to talk about here. And what I want to do is just go through them and give my opinion, my take on the concept of it, whether or not it's a good idea. Obviously these aren't reviews, do not take this as any kind of guidance on the quality of what these films will eventually be. They are merely a judgment of their potential. So let's begin with one of my favourite ideas for a movie, Halo. Now the reason I think Halo makes for a great idea for a movie premise is because the universe that's been established within the games is so expansive. I mean, if anyone's aware of the universe, there's already loads of spin-offs. There's even anime, there's 3D animation, there's books, there's comics, there's loads of stuff. And the reason for that is that you don't just have to focus on the story of the games in Halo to make it notably Halo. You can focus not on the battles themselves, but on the effects these battles are having on the common man, the common person on these many planets that we've been to. How are they enduring the war? How are they getting through it? What's their psychology like? How do they feel about it? Sure, you could just make it a cheesy action film about Spartan going through, shooting up the Covenant, taking on the Forerunners, but I think it would be far more effective to try and analyse the repercussions of what these big name characters are doing. But there's of course the route that's been explored within the games as well, of the Spartan psychology. Now I feel like this was touched on in Halo 4, but simply because of the nature of it being a video game, they couldn't really go to town on the idea of a Spartan. What is a Spartan? A Spartan is someone who from a very young age was trained to be a killer, and that's of course going to make them so difficult to fit into traditional society. They're so tactically minded. The reality is that they are disturbed. They are born for war, and that is such a fascinating topic to try and delve into. I don't think if they're going to make a Halo movie, of course put the odd action scene in. In fact, just begin it with a massive fighting out of space. But I think the core focus should be about the psychology of either the Spartans or those who are affected by the war itself. Or just do something similar to Halo 2 and really explore the alien societies. The Forerunners seem a bit too robotic, but there's a lot to go for in the Covenant. Okay, so another one that I'm sure I'll get disagreements here, but something that I don't think necessarily deserves to be made into a movie is The Last of Us, and do hear me out on this. Now, whereas Halo has a massive appeal in terms of its grander scope, its entire universe, The Last of Us focused far more on a singular narrative. It was more about the story of Ellie and Joel and how they survived. The story was told, it was done, and it was something kind of almost beautiful in and of itself. But The Last of Us are those characters. The zombies, the clickers, the bloaters, I mean, they were obviously essential to the gameplay, but it was about the emotional attachment between Ellie and Joel and the people they met. And it was done in such a truly cinematic way that I don't think a movie is necessary. I would just want to see another The Last of Us 2 if you want. Just do a prequel. I just really would rather have a game of The Last of Us, another game, than a movie. I think you would simply be doing the same thing but taking away the interactive aspect of it, which I just feel would be a loss. So in this case, I don't think it would be essential to make it into a movie. Of course, if you've just got major talent and a great story behind it, any of these concepts should be made into a movie, but I'm just trying to look at the potential behind it and whether it's the right decision or a decision that's just being made because, hey, the game has enormous pre-awareness, we should make a movie because it will make us money, which I feel like perhaps the most recent Hitman film was trying to work off. Okay, so Warcraft. Now, I'm very excited for Warcraft for very similar reasons to Halo, because it does have a very expansive universe, and you can really hone in on and tell stories that just aren't explored in World of Warcraft or the Warcraft RTS games. And furthermore, to be totally frank, the MMO genre is one of the least effective for telling a visceral story. You can get across enormous amounts of information in an MMO, but you can't really tell it with the same heart that you can do in a game like The Last of Us. And so bringing it into a more cinematic perspective, that a movie can offer, I think would be of a tremendous advantage, essentially. And director Duncan Jones, he's had some experience. He's a trusted director. I think he could do a lot with it. And I've seen some of the leaked footage of it, and it looks fairly good. Some people almost bizarrely dislike the use of CGI in the film. I mean, if you've played Warcraft, you know it's a very fantastical universe, more so I'd say than Lord of the Rings, because it can be a bit zany even at times. And I think going for CGI is a fairly wise decision. In fact, really, I don't know if they should even be trying to make it realistic, but that's just my opinion. I think it would do well to follow very strongly in the same vein as the cinematics done before each World of Warcraft expansion. Okay, here's one that really just made me flinch and kind of think, oh, that's just a cash grab. And that's Angry Birds, because Angry Birds has already been so associated with cheesy merchandising. It's a fun game, it's a decent game, but making a movie about it, it just reeks of pre-awareness based motivation. You're not doing it because, well, I've been playing these Angry Birds games, and there is just so much potential to make a good movie. That is not the reasoning. It's because so many people know what Angry Birds is, and they know that it will draw people in based on that. It could be fun, it could be an absolutely fine animated movie for kids, it could be, but in terms of looking at it from a potential point of view, I am rather cynical about it. Then there's Ratchet and Clank. Now, the difference between Angry Birds and Ratchet and Clank is that the Ratchet and Clank games have some really interesting characters in them. Ratchet himself, Clank, Captain Quark. I mean, the villains in the games, they are so interesting. And I don't think they were, in the games, they focused a lot on gameplay, and story was sprinkled in. It was memorable, but it was merely sprinkled in. It wasn't a massive focus. So I think it's actually a great way of making a kids film, and I think it's totally justified, because those characters just have so much potential to make a great comedy. And then there's Assassin's Creed, which I'm sort of split on for two reasons. Now, the thing about Assassin's Creed games is that they come out yearly, and when a game series comes out yearly, I can't help but be inherently cynical about it. But the thing is, I have enjoyed each Assassin's Creed game. They have all been good. Unity had its performance issues, they were mostly cleared up, but they have all been good games. So when I think of that cynical side of things, though, about the movies, I do think, are they just making a movie because Assassin's Creed is so popular and so well known? But then on the other side, there is genuine justification. The Assassin's Creed basic premise is that you are getting into this machine that allows you to explore the memories of your ancestors or people's ancestors, and you can go to these different points in time, and you've got all these conspiracies, and there's just so much room to create something. So Assassin's Creed, I have this underlining feeling of cynicism, but at the same time I feel like you can justify it based on the potential established by the universe for wider scope. So that's all the video game movies I'm going to be talking about for now. As always, people, thanks very much for watching, and see you next time.